What is it that truly makes the human brain, well, human? Is it language, complex thought, or maybe something deeper, something we're only just starting to understand?
It feels like it, doesn't it? New discoveries seem to be constantly popping up, changing how we see ourselves, the world, everything.
Absolutely. The pace is just astonishing sometimes.
It really is.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We want to explore some really surprising new findings, focusing mainly on a recent brain discovery, but also touching on some other, frankly, amazing scientific revelations that help put it all in context for you.
Yeah, the goal here is really to distill these insights and maybe more importantly, look at the different ways people are interpreting them. Some of these interpretations are quite challenging.
Helping you connect the dots, maybe see a bigger picture emerge.
Exactly. And we've pulled from a mix of sources. Some are very straightforward scientific descriptions. Others lean more towards philosophical or even spiritual viewpoints, trying to make sense of what it all means.
So it should make for a really layered discussion, I think. Okay, so let's start with the core discovery. This work by neuroscientist George Paxinos and his team down at Neuroscience Research Australia. They found a part of the human brain stem that, well, nobody knew was there before.
Right, and it's got a name, the endorestiform nucleus. I think the outline mentioned another term, endoestiform nucleo, but endorestiform nucleuses seems to be the standard one.
Endorestiform nucleus. Yeah. Okay, and where exactly is it?
It's located right at a really critical spot, the junction where the brain connects to the spinal cord, a key intersection, basically.
And scientifically speaking, what does Paxinos think it does?
Well, the current thinking is that it receives information coming up from the spinal cord, and it likely relays that information over to the cerebellum.
The cerebellum that's involved in movement coordination.
Exactly. Coordination, balance, reflexes, those sorts of fundamental things. So this nucleus is probably playing a role in fine-tuning all of that.
But here's the really intriguing part, right? The uniqueness.
Yes. This is crucial. According to the sources, this specific region, the endoresiform nucleus, hasn't been found in other primates. Monkeys are mentioned specifically.
Wow. So it could be something genuinely unique to human anatomy.
It certainly raises that possibility. What tiny difference makes us?
And we should probably stress Paxinos isn't just anyone. His reputation is pretty significant in this field.
Oh, absolutely. The sources highlight his brain atlases, these detailed maps. They're considered the gold standard.
Used in neurosurgery everywhere, apparently.
Right. So when he identifies something new, people take notice. It's a serious discovery from a leading expert.
Definitely adds weight to it.
For sure. And what's fascinating is that this discovery, while huge, isn't happening in a vacuum. Our sources point to a whole bunch of other recent kind of mind-blowing findings. It feels like an era of, well, revelation.
Yeah, like peeling back layers. You mentioned those termite mounds.
Oh, yeah. In Brazil, these colossal termite mounds, so big they're visible from space, covering an area the size of Great Britain, apparently. Miles and miles.
Yeah, that's just staggering. Hiding in plain sight, almost.
Exactly. And then jumping from Earth way out into space. Astronomers found a twin to our sun.
A twin? Like identical?
That's what the source says.
Identical.
The idea is that it was maybe once with our sun, inside the Milky Way, before getting catapulted out, as the source puts it.
Our sun has a long-lost sibling somewhere out there. Wild.
Right. And then back to our own bodies, remember the discovery of the interstitium.
Vaguely. Remind me.
It was described as this large, sort of fluid-filled network throughout the body, acting like a cushion for our organs. Basically, a whole new organ system found in between everything else.
Still finding new organs. That's incredible.
Isn't it? So you have this unique brain region, giant ancient termite cities, a twin sun, new body parts. It really forces you to question what else we don't know.
It really does. It shakes up your assumptions.
Definitely. About our place in the world, maybe even. Well, spiritually, too.
Okay, so we had these tangible scientific facts. But like you said, the interpretations are where things get really interesting and sometimes quite divergent.
Yes. One of our sources in particular takes this unique brain discovery and sees it not just physically, but philosophically, spiritually even.
How so?
Well, this perspective actually challenges the standard theory of evolution head on.
Challenges evolution based on this brain region.
Partly, yes. The argument presented is that because this region is unique to humans, and because, as they state, monkeys are still here and we're human, it means, quote, no such thing as evolution in the sense of species crossing over.
That's a strong claim.
It is. The source argues there's no evidence of any species crossing over to another species and uses that to dismiss the conventional view.
You connect this to purpose.
Yeah. The idea is that telling people they came from nothing or are just an accident of evolution diminishes their sense of innate power or divine purpose.
Okay, so it's reframing the science through a very specific philosophical lens.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this leads to a really fascinating symbolic interpretation. This source connects the discovery of this brain region to the idea of the veil of the temple.
The veil of the temple, like from the Bible.
Exactly. They describe this new brain area almost like a gateway between the physical and the spiritual.
Okay, unpack that a bit. The original temple veil.
Right. Traditionally, it was this heavy curtain in the temple in Jerusalem that separated the main sanctuary from the innermost Holy of Holies, representing the direct presence of God. It kept people separate, symbolically.
And it had figures on it. Cherubim.
Yes, adorned with cherubim, which the source describes as imaginary beasts.
So how does the brain discovery connect?
The source's interpretation is that the veil representing separation has been ripped in two, signifying a new opening, a new access. And this brain discovery, this gateway, is seen as evidence or a symbol of that opening happening now.
Wow, so the veil isn't just a physical thing in this view.
No, it becomes a metaphor. The source equates the veil with the flesh, or the idea of who you think you are, or even that imaginary creature, the cherubim, all the things that supposedly keep you from the truth of who you really are in Christ, according to this view.
That's quite a leap from spinal cord relays and coordination.
It is. It's taking the science and embedding it in a much larger spiritual narrative.
Interestingly, Paxinos himself used an analogy, didn't he? The island in the river.
He did. From a purely anatomical view, he described the endorestiform nucleus as like an island, a distinct group of cells sitting within the river of the inferior cerebellar peduncle, that pathway carrying signals.
Just a descriptive scientific analogy.
Right, but this source picks up that island analogy and gives it a spiritual spin.
Yeah.
They suggest this island discovery is linked to the veil being revealed, and the river isn't just nerve signals, but represents a flow upward to a spiritual and divine realm.
So same image, completely different meaning assigned to it.
Completely different context, which leads to the source's broader message, really.
Which seems to be about personal power, faith.
Very much so. Phrases like, with faith, all things are possible, and the idea that our imagination alone can create universes, or at the very least, shape a better reality for ourselves. It's strongly focused on innate potential.
Does it touch on, like, current world events? You mentioned challenges earlier.
Yes, it acknowledges global issues, mentioning climate change, for instance. It describes the world is going to get crazier, with things like tsunamis and earthquakes potentially getting bigger and bigger.
That sounds quite grim.
It's framed using the metaphor of birth pangs, though, escalating crises before something new emerges. So even with that outlook, the core message remains one of hope and preparedness, rather than despair.
Okay. And the ultimate source of that hope for this perspective is?
It's stated very clearly. Christ in you is the hope of glory, the belief that we are more than we know and have more power than we've ever believed, an inherent spiritual power within.
And that even struggles have a purpose.
Exactly. The idea that difficulties are there to get you to where you're meant to be. And this really powerful line, nothing that we've been through is going to compare to the glory that's going to be revealed when that veil, that nonsense, is completely taken away.
A very specific, very hopeful interpretation layered onto these scientific finds.
Absolutely. A profound rereading of both science and personal experience through that particular spiritual framework.
So, okay, we've journeyed from a tiny, newly identified cluster of cells in the brainstem.
All the way to colossal termite cities, twin suns.
And landed on interpretations about ripped veils, divine power, and the very nature of reality. It's quite a ride.
It really shows how discoveries ripple outwards, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How we try to make sense of new information through whatever lens we have, scientific, philosophical, spiritual.
It certainly does. And as we wrap up, maybe the final thought for you listening is that idea from the source, that just knowing about these things, whether it's the science or the interpretations, could be empowering.
How might understanding these different views from the microscopic level of your own brain out to the cosmos and into these deep symbolic interpretations, how might that shift your own perspective?
Yeah, how might it change how you see what's possible? or what defines you, or even just how you navigate that river of life, as Paxinos put it.
What new veil, perhaps metaphorical, might you discover within yourself? Something to think about.